All right, everybody. As Logan just hooked himself, welcome back to 7 Deadly Fins. Today we have another buyer's guide for you. This one's Topwater.
Indeed.
Getting that one cleaned off?
I am. Now I'm getting the table cleaned off.
Topwater is an amazing fishing technique.
Yeah, if you know the right time to get out there, go do it and just nail some fish.
Indeed.
But it can take a little practice. Figure out how to throw stuff and what kind of presentations bass will actually go for.
Yep.
But we have got several different types of topwater. I feel like we've covered at least most of the techniques for topwater fishing.
Definitely.
And we're going to go through and continue our buyer's guide series by telling you guys which ones we like the best and which ones you should be buying for your fellow angler or just the angler in your family.
Or yourself.
This Christmas. Yeah, or yourself.
Christmas present to you.
Yeah. Show yourself a little love, homie.
So what you want to start with?
I figured let's start with, I feel like the one that people are really going to get into it with, which is poppers.
Alrighty.
Okay, so poppers are very subtle.
Yeah.
I would say the most subtle of the topwaters, but also can cause a lot of commotion if you want them to.
Yep.
This is that Berkeley Pop 70. This is a popper that I've thrown a lot and caught a lot of fish with. It's got a good noise to it. Not too subtle, but not too loud either. That's a 70 millimeter body. I feel like it's the good middle ground.
Especially
I feel like
for
most
ponds.
of the poppers you're going to see are probably 70 millimeters. Yeah, especially for ponds. And this is that, I believe they call that MF Frog.
Yep.
Nice popper, good bloop to it, good action, all around good popper.
Speaking of bloop.
Oh, you want me to go on ahead and go? Okay. The popper, I will say, we've talked a lot about Guggen on this channel and our opinions on Guggen and whether we like Guggen or don't like Guggen. And I feel like the consensus of what we have said this entire time is their soft plastics suck.
Yep.
But their hard baits are pretty high. And I will say the Guggen Squad blooper, I have caught more fish on the Guggen Squad blooper than any other popper, especially in the nightclub color.
Yep.
Not per se this color here. This is like a sexy shad color, but that's like cracked. I will say the durability on the Guggen Squad blooper is a little suspect because I have, just catching fish, cracked one in half. I've also hooked myself a couple times with them. And I actually hooked myself with the Pop 70 right as we started this video.
Yep.
But the Guggen Squad blooper does catch fish. Its bloop is really nice. It has a really nice action. I would go out and say this is my favorite bait from Guggen Squad.
Yep. Really good stuff. My number one pick for a topwater popper currently is this Storm Cover Pop 80. Now this is a bit bigger than Logan's first pick by 10 millimeters, which is a pretty decent.
Not to say I don't throw 80 millimeter poppers.
That's a Vicious?
Yeah, this is the Vicious Pop 80. It is a big old popper.
Yeah.
But they still will catch fish. I just prefer the 70s. I feel like they're a little more subtle, and
yeah,
I feel like I catch more fish on them.
They're a little more subtle, but I personally like 80s. And the oversized hooks on this Arashi cover pop really increase that hookup ratio. And of course, feather treble, as we've said before, we believe it adds a lot of action.
Absolutely. I didn't point that out, but that is a really good point. If it doesn't have a feather treble, I ain't buying it.
That's not necessarily true, but I do like to have them.
Yeah.
100%. And you can't go wrong with a 70, 80 millimeter popper, man. This is where most people start on their topwater journey, and it's a good place to start. I tell you
Indeed.
what, many fish can be had with this lure.
And like I said, I have several poppers here.
Proppers?
Proppers or ploppers here. I've caught fish on all of them. There's several that stand out. I feel like the Bullet Pop 70 and the Blooper stand out the most to me. Trey believes it's the Storm Arashi Cover Pop 80.
And then runner-up, I mean, this is a small one. This is very tiny.
You can't talk about poppers without talking about the Pop R.
And this is the small Pop R. Again, not feathered, but it's some sort of material back here. This is a very old Pop R. It's discolored and it's beaten to heck. But I really like this for spinning stuff, spinning tackle.
And you know what? I feel like when it comes time to be throwing topwater again, we should do a popper comparison.
Yeah,
and review
definitely.
Video. So we'll do that separately later on, maybe in the spring, when we can throw topwater again.
Now, where do you think from poppers do people go to?
I think maybe not necessarily where people go to first off, but I feel like the closest type presentation before they get to actual walking baits is pencil poppers.
Yes.
Now, obviously, a much bigger presentation, and they do incorporate a lot more of the walking the dog action. This is the yo-zuri 3DB pencil popper.
Yep.
This is the 135. Very nice pencil popper.
Yes.
Between this and the other one I'm about to show you, they're very close for my first pick as my favorite. This is the bone color. It is a sexy bait overall. 3 nice large treble hooks. Yo-zuri has been coming a long way in the last few years as far as the quality of their baits and the action and presentation of their baits, and it shows. And listen to this, it's a pretty loud sucker.
Yep.
But nice popping, spitting action. Nice, it walks the dog extremely easy. This is just a great pencil popper.
I currently do not own one, but I have owned one before I lost it. And that is a very good pencil popper.
You lost that when we were trying to catch gar.
Yes, trying to catch gar.
Cast it all over the other bank.
Yep, got it lodged in something.
Yeah. And then I think you can't talk about pencil poppers without talking about the venerable Cotton Cordell pencil popper.
Yep.
Old sucker, been around forever. One of the originals, loud sucker, and they catch fish. It walks really easy. Again, got the nice oversized hooks on it. I think you'll see that a lot with topwaters.
Yeah.
Just because the bass has to come up and smack that sucker off the top of the water, and you want to make sure you stick them. But that, you can see it's kind of beat up. I've caught a lot of fish on this, put it through a lot. It's good pencil popper. I highly recommend both of these.
Yep. And then from there would be walking baits.
Indeed.
So me is the Mad Dog 130 saltwater. Man, oh man, oh man. This is a big sucker. 1.3 ounces. Just one big old knocker in there. Galvanized hardware because this is a saltwater lure. But it works great for freshwater. I've caught many a largemouth and a smallmouth on this thing.
Indeed. A black, solid black smallmouth. Which
very
was
dark
insane.
fish.
We might even put the picture right here.
Yep. But man, walking baits, this specific one walks really well. Whenever it's idle in the water, it goes vertical like this. And I have noticed that on the pause, I'll stop and then give it 1 or 2 light little walks and it'll twitch on me and then they'll come for it. But walking baits in general are just exemplary at what they do. You just got to know when to use them.
Indeed. And with that, I will move into Strike King KVD Sexy Dog. Very popular topwater walking bait. It walks very nicely. It has a good sound to it. Extremely good hooks. All the quality you would expect from Strike King. And this is actually the hard knock version. I mainly want to talk about just the Sexy Dog, but the hard knock version is still really good. And that's that bluegill color. Very nice.
Good looking.
Very nice. And it's just a good bait overall. There's not too much. It walks nice. There's not too much to say about it. I will say my runner-up is the Lucky Craft Sammy. It's a smaller size. But again, really nice, high quality Lucky Craft stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Walks extremely well. Very nice topwater walking bait.
While we're here talking about runner-ups.
Yeah, you go ahead.
This is the Bass Pro brand topwater walking bait. And this one does have a little bit of a spitter mouth on it, but it is very much just a walking bait. And this sucker walks really well for the money. Now the hooks could be better, but you know, it's a house brand lure. And the fish, this is a very interesting, like, iridescent ghost white pattern. Frosted, and I really enjoy it, and I think that for the money, when topwater have a tendency to be more on the pricey side of things, this is a really good value.
And you know what, I'd like to point out, Trey thinks he throws big topwaters, okay? He thinks he throws some big ones. I'll say, he ain't had nothing on me, son. Look at that sucker. That's the, I think they call it the super sexy dog.
Something like that.
Magnum. It might be the Mag sexy dog. It's something like that. I don't remember. I own it.
It's stupidly big, dude.
I never throw this, but every once in a while you just gotta whip it out and cast it out there. That's my big black topwater right there. Yes, that's all I can say about that.
It has its own spot in the tackle box. Nothing fits with it.
No, it takes up its own little slot there. All right.
Frogs?
I would think frogs.
Frogs.
Yes, frogs. I want to save the most special for last, so we'll go to frogs.
I will start with this 10,000 fish Tataki Frog.
Yeah, a newer frog.
Newer frog.
Yeah, just released this year.
And the design of these frogs, well, first of all, the frogs just look angry. They're very appealing. They have a heavily weighted back hook section, so whenever they sit in the water, they're a bit more porpoised out like that. And whenever they walk, they dive back down a little bit more and then do their thing. The skirting material has rubber, but then a more stiffer, like, tassel material.
Yeah, fibrous type shiny stuff.
And,
streamers almost.
Yeah, and this stuff does not get wet like the rubber does, and it's a more stiff whenever it's actually wet. So it splays out more and gives a wider profile of, like, legs of what a frog would have, and thus making a larger wake in the back.
I see that for me. I haven't fished with this. I haven't even played around with it. I just want to see how supple it was. It's
they're pretty stiff.
Yeah, it's actually pretty firm. Not what I was expecting, but you know, I guess you'd really have to fish with it to know. Nice. I mean, they're definitely frog hooks, but them are still some pretty thick frog hooks.
Yeah.
I mean,
and of course, with frogs, you can make the augmentation to your frogs if you want to. Bend out your hooks a little bit to increase your hookup ratio.
Trim one leg. You know.
Do things of that sort. But I've really enjoyed the look of these frogs so much, I have another one on the way.
Indeed. All right, my first frog, I'll stick with normal type frogs for now. This is the smaller version though. This is that Pad Crasher Junior. The Booyah Pad Crasher is a nice frog. A lot of people love to throw it. They have the nice living rubber type legs.
Yep.
They catch fish. This is an MF frog color again. Nice. I like the chartreuse belly of it. It's a more supple frog than that Tataki Frog. Doesn't have the cherry smell. If you guys notice that when you get frogs, they smell like cherries.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I guess it's the silicone or whatever they used to make the frogs, but it always smells like cherries to me.
Yeah.
But this is that smaller size, so if you have more finicky bass, or you just have smaller frogs in general in your pond or lake, maybe that downsize will do you favors. And sometimes of the year, I just hooked myself again. Downsizing is key. So keep that Pad Crasher Junior in mind. That's one of my favorite frogs.
And just for reference, size difference.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is a standard size frog, and this is that Pad Crasher Junior.
Yep.
You can see the size difference.
And speaking of the Pad Crasher, this is my runner-up, my second. I really enjoyed this frog. I have the black version, obviously, and I have trimmed one of the legs just, you know, to make it walk a little easier. But these are good frogs. I absolutely enjoyed it.
My next frog, because I want to include some poppin' frogs, because poppin' frogs do have a time and place. And my favorite poppin' frog is that Z-Man Leap Frog's Poppin' Frog. Very supple frog. Nice popping mouth on it. The keeled body is very nice for keeping it sitting straight up in the water. And, you know, I feel like it has pretty good hookup ratio. So, Poppin' Frogs, I would go with the Leap Frog's Poppin' Frog by Z-Man. It's a very good frog. Frog fishing is probably our least used topwater. So, there's definitely other guys that you should go listen to about frogs.
Yep. That
will know a lot more than us. But we do occasionally do topwater frog fishing.
Yep.
So, do keep that in mind.
And then if you're partial to Booyah, Booyah also makes a popping topwater frog.
Indeed, they sure do. The popping pad crash. And then I will use this next bait as a transition bait. This is the Booyah Toad Runner. Specifically, this is Toad Runner Junior. Both of them, I want to talk about both. Both of them are good. But this has this has a boot tail on the back end of it. And what this does is as it catches the water, it spins and plops almost like a whopper plopper. And I have caught a ton of bass on this frog. And as you can see, it's pretty tore up.
Yep, it's chewed up.
And paint. But I've used it a bunch. It catches fish. Booyah Toad Runner Junior or Booyah Toad Runner, they do catch fish. And you can try and walk it and stuff, but really it does better just a straight retrieve.
Yep. So while that was a transitional bait towards the ploppers side of the spectrum, I will talk about my favorite plopper. And currently it is the Googan Squad Revolver. And for the longest of time, it was the only plopper style bait that I had experience with. But I have to give the Googan Squad credit with this. This lure got me my PB. So it definitely works. It's caught a lot of fish. Don't know if y'all will be able to see it, but it's got some rash on it, some hook rash.
It does.
It's tore up. I will say the first night I used it, it did crack and chip, which was heavily unfortunate. Don't know if y'all can see it right there, but don't know how it happened. May have hit a rock, or it was just a really violent bass strike. Don't know.
Yeah. See, I think this is showing kind of a consistency amongst Googan topwaters. Like I said, I had a blooper crack completely in half. I mean, it goes all the way, and it is sad. But that is my favorite color from Googan. It's that Night Club color.
With that little bit of chartreuse.
Black with a little bit of chartreuse. It gets them.
It does get them.
Especially at topwater time.
And then, if you're on a budget, hardcore, you always got...
Oh, yeah. We should point that out. Because topwater is majority expensive.
Very much so.
It's one of the most expensive techniques you could go with, I would think. Especially some of the things we will talk about. Especially coming up. I think the category we're in right now is probably at least in the top 3 most expensive topwater techniques.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind.
But if you're on a budget and you can't shell out $10, $11, $12, $15 for a topwater plopper, you got the Walmart plopper.
You do get the Walmart
It's
plopper.
always an option. It may last one fish.
Indeed. Which I will say, just for all honesty, have not fished with this yet, but we do plan on doing it and doing a review on it when we can. It's the middle of winter right now in Kentucky, and we can't. So.
No. But this is always an option if you're hard up for some ploppage.
Maybe another tornado will come through and we'll get some more warm weather.
It's a possibility.
But for me, I'm going to move into my ploppers now, and I'm going to start with the real thing. This is the River C Whopper Plopper. This is the 75. Yeah, these are generally $13, $14, $15, $16 baits. It's the 75 bottle. I've caught a ton of fish on this, largemouth and smallmouth alike.
Yep.
They hit it. I think it makes the best sound, and it just looks good. That plopper there is right in front of that back treble, so they know exactly where to strike. And it's just a venerable name. It's a venerable bait. It's high quality. It's ready to fish, and I recommend you get one. if you can.
One thing I will add to what Logan said is the difference in design between the Revolver and the actual River to C Whopper plopper. The actual plopping mechanism on the Revolver is in the middle instead of at the tail. And in my experience, what I noticed is that this middle treble would get stuck right here into the plopping mechanism, and you would have to give it one really hard twitch to get that sucker loose and then start the mechanism again.
Yeah, and I will say I have not had that problem yet. Not to say I won't, but I haven't yet. And now on the Guggen Scott Revolver, how is that back, or that plopper blade? Is it soft or hard plastic?
This is very thick, hard plastic.
Okay, this is a stiffer but still soft, rubbery type plastic.
Like I cannot,
silicone almost.
I cannot Oh. All right.
Go back to durability there.
Yeah, just flexing slightly on this
Revolver.
On this Revolver, I have now broken it. So, as you can see,
blooper reel. Wait. Blooper reel.
God bless it.
That's sad. I feel bad now.
Well, it needs to go into the video.
It does.
Because this is a testament to how, while these lures are good at catching fish,
They do catch fish.
the quality is still a little sus sometimes.
And that's the one thing we've always had, what we dislike about their soft plastics.
Yeah.
They don't last. I mean,
No.
you might catch one fish. You might not even catch a fish and have to switch out plastics because they suck that bad.
I have had a trench hog rip in half halfway through a cast.
Yeah.
And
not even catching fish on it, you know?
Yeah, and while
They have good action.
Yeah, they look great in the water, but that don't matter if you can't get it in the water without it tearing. And the same goes with this. I mean, this sucker caught a lot of fish. I've only used it a handful of times. There's no reason, theoretically, why this should have just sheared off with the slightest amount of pressure.
Sad. And you know, a lot of you guys really like Guggen. And you gotta listen to what we're saying. We're not saying we dislike Guggen.
Or the people involved with Guggen.
No. We're fine with Flair and Alex Perry and
Lunkers,
all
LFG.
them guys. We're fine with them. And they're extremely good businessmen.
Yes,
But their
very smart.
plastics and seemingly appearing, at least their topwater hard baits, their durability is very suspect.
Yeah, just a tad.
But like we said, we really like the action, the presentations, and the amount of fish catches we get on their hard baits, specifically their topwaters. But
It's an unfortunate day in the neighborhood.
indeed.
Nothing a good old little super glue can't do, though.
That's true. And then just my runner-up in the last bait I guess we'll talk about in this video is the Berkeley Choppa.
I do like this one.
Yes, and again, it has a hard plastic plopper blade type deal.
Indeed.
And it's basically the same style as that Whopper plopper in the fact that the plopper is right in front of that back hook. Now, the overall thickness feels slightly less than on an actual plopper, and the paint is different, but overall it's the same type presentation and action. And I know several guys actually feel like they like these more than the original Whopper ploppers from River to Sea,
Which is interesting because the River to Sea ones are more expensive.
Indeed. Yeah, slightly. This is still a $10 bait, but I want to put more time in with it, see how I really feel. But until I do that, this is still just a runner-up.
Yeah.
But still a good bait.
And then probably our second least used topwater baits would be buzzbaits.
Yeah, Buzzbaits. There's still some good Buzzbaits out there. I forgot to bring any to do this, but like the Hack Attack Headbanger, that's a good Buzzbait from Strike King. Several out there. Really, I mean, you're not going to see a lot of differences in Buzzbaits. I mean, there's several innovations. You could have 2 blades. You could have a wire that connects the two ends of the wire like that to hold it together.
Mm-hmm.
Strike King recently came out with the skipping buzzbait from Andy Montgomery. He loves to skip buzzbaits, and they made that wire to connect the two ends. Some buzzbaits will have clackers to make more noise as such. Really, you know,
they catch fish. They've been proven to catch fish, but buzzbaits are definitely one of those top waters where you definitely have to know when, where, and how to throw these. Not only that, these require a very fast gear ratio reel to get them to work well. And
you need to be reeling as soon as that bait hits the water. I mean, I start reeling before it hits the water.
Yeah.
Just so I know it's going to be on top and working properly for that cast.
Because the entire idea behind buzzbaits is that they're a topwater spinnerbait. And in essence, that's how their design works. But because they're heavy and will sink without you actually running the lure, you have to work them fast.
You do.
Or work a lighter, smaller buzzbait. But this is my go-to. This is the Booyah buzzbait. I don't remember if it has a specific name. It's black and it has a clacker. It's noisy.
Yeah, that's going to be the colors you see most, black and white. Mostly with frogs as well. But yeah, I mean, Guggen Squad, they got the Hummer.
Yep.
Actually a fairly decent buzzbait again.
Yep. It's got the piece of rubber band holding the two sections together.
If a company does that, I give them brownie points, because
it keeps them running true.
Keeps them running true, keeps your line from slipping up or down the wire.
Yep.
It's nice.
And then the actual blade itself does have some holes cut into it, so it leaves a bubble trail. And this is the bluegill pattern.
And everything seems high quality.
Yes,
This
and
one of them
it appears to be hand-tied skirt.
This is one of those instances where, I mean, that's a quality Guggen product.
Yep. I have not used this one. On the surface level, it does look like it will run well and catch fish, but time will show whether or not it holds up.
Indeed. But with that, we'll wrap up this video. Please remember to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and set it to all notifications. That way you know when we release new videos for you. Help each other out type deal, you know? But again, keep watching for more buyer's guides, more gear reviews, more unboxings.
Indeed.
If there's any type of like mystery box type deal that you guys would like to see opened up, let us know.
Yep.
You can check out us unboxing the MTB Pro Bass Kit just a little while ago.
Box number 303, I believe.
Very good memory. We also unboxed the Strike King Hardbait Kit and the Hack Attack box.
Yep.
Check those out. Check out any number of our gear reviews. We'll link some stuff in the end screen for you to check out. So, see y'all later.